At 93. Come on, it's Friday. You can get a little more excited than that. There you go. There you go. All right, our top story today, I'll get into it in just a second. Now you're a little too excited. Calm down. We have a report here, finally, with a little bit of research into something that you and I have speculated on for years. How much are we spending on the health care of people who aren't citizens here? Illegal immigrants on top of that. And so we have the first report because we just passed the law in the last session that included the fact that they would even gather this information. Before that, we didn't know how much illegals were costing us. We could guess, we could do some research projects in there, but we actually have a checkbox on the form now. Are you an illegal immigrant? And so just out of the people that actually participated and were willing to admit it. So you got to know this is a big undercounting here. Last month, $122 million. That this was for people not legally present in the United States. They visited hospitals in Texas about 31,000 times. 122 million is the cost. Now, we don't know who covered that cost. Maybe they paid in cash. Maybe they somehow offered up their insurance. But the norm is they don't pay. If you're an illegal, you don't want to give them your credit card info. If you have a credit card, they'll be able to track you down. If you do have insurance through your employer, you don't want to give them that info because they'll be able to track you down. A lot of times they just walk. And I've had people who've worked at hospitals out in Bug Tussle. Yes, we have hospitals out there. They do still have a hitching post, but we have hospitals, leeches and stuff. But they said another thing that they noticed is sometimes people who would come in and they looked Hispanic, but they didn't even have an accent. They seemed like they were very Americanized, but they would say they were illegal just so they could skip the bill. They've, seen other people do it. Maybe even family members do it. So in the most extreme undercounting scenario possible, because I was playing you this time last year, doctors on the show saying, we're not going to comply with that. We're going to give people the care they need, and we're not going to violate their rights, and this is a violation of HIPAA laws, and blah, blah, blah. We don't believe in that, woke. So there's a bunch of doctors out there who didn't count their patients. So this is just the ones we know of, $122 million. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to start, though, because I got some feedback from shows in the previously this week. And I do not mind if you pitch me ideas. In fact, I love it. Hey, you should have so-and-so on your show. Or, hey, did you see this article? And even if I've seen it 10 times, I'm just thrilled. I'm flattered that you care enough to even bother to send. Or when you saw that, you thought of me. That's pretty cool. That makes me feel kind of special that you think about me at all. But I had one that kind of ticked me off. So now we have to have a chat here. Someone sent me a guest idea. This dude would be perfect on your guest because upcoming is National Salad Day. I was like, no. And you thought of me? You thought of me on National Salad Day. Is it National Make Fun of Salad Day? Because I need to work on my branding here. I need to be getting, if it's National Bacon Day, you can send me a guest idea. National Brisket Day. Hell, National Dr. Pepper. National Salad Day, though? I don't know why that ticked me off, but I feel like in Office Space, the whole Case of the Mondays thing, this is what I felt like.
Let me ask you something. When you come in on Monday and you're not feeling real well, does anyone ever say to you, sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays?
No. No, man. No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Huh.
All right. So just keep that in mind. I was insulted. I don't know why I took that so hard. Usually I don't get that emotionally invested in it. But don't send me tips for National Salad Day. All right. Now back to our top story. Because at the same time, we had the report on the hospitals costing you, the taxpayer, just in one state here. This is just in Texas, $122 million. We had another spectacle that was happening on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives. Dustin Burrows was presiding. There's a new bill proposed by a Democrat that creates this new scholarship fund, which instead of taking the surplus money that they've taken from you and giving it back to you, Let's find a new way to spend it. So they're coming up with all these programs. They did the National Institutes of Health, but the Texas version, obviously not national, but like the Texas Institute of Health. That's not what they're calling it. I forgot what it's called, but it's the same thing as the NIH. They created that. They created a few other new agencies, and now they're just going to give away your money instead of giving it back to you. Here's what we're going to do: we're going to come up with a new scholarship program, and we're going to give it out to students that we want to, because the guy that proposed the bill, it's House Bill 2249, proposed by State Rep Diego Bernal. He's a Democrat from San Diego. This is the Texas Teacher Recruitment Scholarship Program. Offers up to $40,000 to individuals pursuing teacher certification. But Mike Alcott from Aledo, he's a Republican here in the WBAP listening area. Hey, Mike. I know he's probably in Austin. But he says, hey, there's nothing in this bill that requires the recipients to be citizens. So I'm proposing an amendment requiring the scholarship recipients to be U.S. citizens. Well, the Democrats didn't like it, but also Dustin Burrows sided with the Democrats to kill that amendment. Dustin Burrows. Good Lord. Can we get rid of this guy? I have the list. I had to send it to about 24 people since yesterday's show. I have the list of rhinos. I have the list of people, the 36 Republicans who you sent down to Austin, and they sided with the Democrats, and they got this Dustin Burrows guy in as speaker, and then they're siding with him on all these other votes. The budget, the creation of these dumb agencies, this terrible scholarship program. So it got shot down, and the citizenship amendment wasn't the only one Burrows killed. Two more conservative amendments were tried to throw on this bill. One of them was protecting student teachers from vaccine mandates. That one got struck down. Dustin Burrows sided with the Democrats on that one. And then there was another amendment that got shot down, barring recipients of this scholarship fund from engaging in anti-Semitic protests. So could you at least not support Hamas while we're taking money from the taxpayers and giving it to non-citizens? No, not even that. So the Democrats in Austin and their rhino friends, so this is a bipartisan screwing of you, the taxpayer of Texas, are sending a bill to the Senate tomorrow. Or I guess that might be today because this was written tomorrow. Maybe today. That takes money from you, gives it to non-citizens, even if they support Hamas and they protest and rally in support of terrorist groups, instead of giving you your money back. Think about that. Next time you make your mortgage payment and you see that big escrow with all the taxes and insurance on there, think about that. That's what you're paying for. Some of that's going to these guys. Some of that's going to these hospitals. A lot of it's going to these schools to take care of non-citizens. Do you realize how much smaller your tax bill would be if it was only for fellow Texans? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk to Laura Reese from the Heritage Foundation on these immigration topics and get her take on that. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, happy Friday. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, up until last year, no one's even made an attempt to find out how much illegals were costing you as the taxpayers here in the great state of Texas. An executive order by your governor last year said we need to start trying to keep these records. And under the situation, there's a lot of reason to believe this is a vast undercounting. It just because the executive order said that you have to ask patients for their immigration status, but patients can refuse to answer. And under federal law, the hospital still has to take care of them regardless of their status. We have doctors that have made TikTok videos and thrown them online saying, we're not going to comply with this. We're going to tell them that they can skip this. They still left it on the form, but said you don't have to fill out that top part. And so even with the expected undercounting, last month cost you $122 million. Laura Reese is on with the Heritage Foundation. And Laura, I knew it'd be a big number. Am I right to think that this is an undercounting, though?
Yes, you are right, because people are going to be afraid to report it, or as you say, deliberately not ask the question. It's a form of don't ask, don't tell, because they don't want people to be turned away. They don't want immigration to be enforced. And so therefore, if the data is not very well known or accessible, then it is harder to justify trying to deport or enforce our immigration laws in their minds.
Okay, so we don't know how these costs were charged off. We don't know specifically how much was put on the backs of the taxpayers versus if someone paid cash, or maybe they might have had insurance somehow. Are we ever going to get that number on how much it actually cost us?
I mean, it's unlikely, but I know that hospital staff complain about the number of uninsured and, other patients having to cover their costs to subsidize it. So I think people can be pretty confident that it's not insurance that has been paying for at least this population to a large extent of that number. But I mean, just think about the number: 121 million in 1 month. That's over 1.4 billion over a year. And that is just one type of service in just one state. That doesn't even account for the cost of education and detention and housing, et cetera. So it's been, so many billions of dollars for each of these states and large localities, particularly during the Biden administration. And that's why Americans are so fed up with what that administration did and continues to support mass deportations.
So when did we start doing this? This doesn't sound like something our grandparents would have put up with.
Right. I mean, largely it was the illegal numbers really started to increase in the 70s and has just been on a glide path ever since. And then hitting every historic number in the books of every type the past 4 years. Why? Because people look the other way. People try to justify it and say, well, they're coming for a better life, or they've been here a long time. I mean, if you think about it, it's rather perverse. You acquiesce for years and years. You accommodate for decades. That is why we had the number that was always quoted pre-Biden was 11 million illegal aliens here. He added another at least 11 million. And it's because people just acquiesced to illegal border crossings, to people working without authorization, to people staying here longer illegally and then using that as a defense. Well, you can't remove me because I've been here so long. But more eyes are starting to open with all these criminal aliens and gang members that the left are trying to defend, let alone bring back into the U.S. And a lot of Americans are like, this is absurd. Now you want due process? So, they're exposing it, which is a good thing. But in the meantime, we're paying a lot of money for all these people who aren't supposed to be here. And more data is good in that regard because then it can drive to policy to prevent illegal immigration, both in the states but nationwide also.
Well, that's also one of the eye-rolling aspects of people complaining about the Doge cuts. You know, they're cutting all this funding for research and, you know, curing dementia or cancer or whatever. It's like, you're not interested in research. You don't even know how much we're spending on illegals until, what, last August is when the governor's executive order came out. Y'all never thought to look into that my entire life, how much illegal immigrants cost us through the hospital system? Oh, yeah, you guys are real concerned about research.
No, they're not concerned about research or preventing or cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They have clearly benefited from slush funds galore, and that's what Doge is exposing. And it's fantastic. We need Doge to continue to do that. I think each state needs a Doge, and so Americans can get more of their own money back into their pocketbooks.
Love it. Well, Laura Reese, I've always said that if we cut off all these social services, if we stop giving them free health care and free education and this new scholarship program that they're just pushing through in Austin and all these other goodies, a lot of these people would self-deport. They wouldn't if they came here in the first place.
That's right. You got to take away or prevent the 5 things that illegal aliens want. You prevent the entry, you prevent them staying here longer, you prevent them working here, sending money home and having our kids or bringing family here, and you're going to drastically cut illegal immigration. And in this aspect, what we're talking about is preventing the staying here longer desire that they have. If you stop facilitating the illegal residence, the illegal stay, then yes, they're going to go someplace else.
Laura Reese, Heritage Foundation, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, I'm going to ask you, shouldn't we just cut all this off? Shouldn't we cut off free hospital care? And I'm not saying a sick person shows up and you just kick them in the gutter and let them die. No, we'll give you health care, but we're also going to send you the bill, and we'll call ICE to deport you and send you home too. And so I think, how many of these people would self-deport? Half of them, if they weren't getting free school anymore, they weren't getting free health care anymore, they were actually getting the bill for the services that you're paying for. How great wouldn't that fix? I would guess half. If you just took out all the goodies, half. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Are you okay with taking away social services from all illegal immigrants? 800-288-9227. I think after seeing this report that 121.8 million of your tax dollars were possibly spent at hospitals by illegals. We don't know if, they voluntarily paid for it when they didn't have to. I'm not sure why they would, but let's just go ahead and assume. You add that in with all the money that's going to educate them, with all the kids there. How many ESL programs? What was it? There was like a teacher in Fort Worth who called in and said 40% of the students at his school are in ESL. How much does that cost the taxpayers? But if we got rid of these services, if we stop making it so easy and comfortable and, by comparison to where they come from, luxurious to be here, how many of these people would stay? Wouldn't that deter some illegal immigration if they knew if they went to the hospital, they'd at least get a bill, if not deported? If they couldn't just stick their kids in school for absolutely free at your expense? Would as many people come here? Of course not. Would as many people stay? Of course not. Would they even bring their family? Probably not. So I think that this should serve as a wake-up call to all the people who are saying, well, I don't know how much they cost us. Well, now we know, at least in the hospital front. There's been no intellectual curiosity for the government to figure this out. Of all the things they keep records on and study, they've got money to study shrimp on a treadmill, but not how much illegals were costing the taxpayers at hospitals. There was no count of how many illegals are in our federal prison system and in most state prison systems. In fact, Ann Coulter was writing a book on a completely different topic. And in one of the chapters, she was just doing her due diligence and trying to come up with some numbers like, they're only this much percent of the population, but they're this percentage of the prison population. And she couldn't find the numbers. So she actually had to go write Adios America because her going down the rabbit hole of how little interest we have in keeping up with how much illegals cost the taxpayers was worthy of a whole book. So we now have a little inkling of it. Is that enough for you? And then you also have the Speaker of the House siding with the Democrats in the state legislature. Instead of giving back some of your tax money from the surpluses that they've been running with property tax relief or some other way, they're going to give it to other people. They're going to keep it, give it to the people they see fit. They would like to control how that's spent, not you. So they proposed a new program. It'll be a scholarship for teachers. That's the ticket. If you want to come here and you want to study to be a teacher, because we need teachers. Well, another state rep realized that they didn't have any exclusionary language for immigrants or even illegal immigrants and made no mention of citizenship status. So he proposed an amendment saying the purpose of the bill here, the conditions of the bill, need to be restricted solely to citizens. And they're like, no, we'll go ahead and strike that down. And so here they are, like at every turn, they're siding against the taxpayers. Hey, if illegals come and go to our hospital, we're required to treat them because we're not monsters. Shouldn't they get the bill? There's a lot of politicians out there and a good chunk of voters who say, no, that should be on the taxpayers. We'll just cover it, whatever it costs. Well, what about their school? Oh, yeah, you can cover that too. Well, what about the scholarships? Yeah, you can cover that too. And then you go so far as to now we have the 2 judges that have gotten arrested this week. And these are comically bad cases. You've heard some of that in the top of the hour news update here. The other one is this guy that's in Las Cruces, which is sort of the El Paso metropolitan area, but it is across the border just north in New Mexico. This guy, a judge and his wife, had a 23-year-old illegal alien from Venezuela, which federal investigators believe is affiliated with Tren de Aragua. He was living in their guest house. And I don't mean he was crashing for the night. Like, he's been there for months. The Dallas Express was showing him in Christmas photos. And so he finally got taken away not too long ago. And then they circled back and got the judge and his wife, put him in cuffs. This other one, this lady in Wisconsin, This is one of the not believable sound bites that you're going to hear today. Pam Bondi was explaining it on Fox News. This doesn't even sound real. This is indistinguishable from satire, this judge.
This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow. So they can't stop citing against you. They just can't help themselves. They'll take your money and spend it on these people. They'll keep them from going to jail. If they do get deported, they'll go down to El Salvador and beg to have them back. So this is what the Make America Great Again. This is why this resonates so much. This America First idea. Because clearly some people do not have America First as part of their philosophical underpinning. But how long are we going to put up with this? How many of you agree with me? No more free school. No more free health care. No more Social Security. Some of them get on Social Security checks. No more disability. Definitely no more food stamps or welfare of any kind. Pull the rug out from under these people until all of our citizens are taken care of. Then maybe we can have a conversation about how much freebies we're going to give people who are here illegally. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Take it all away from illegals. All the gifts that we give them, all the things that we were doing because we were nice. We have reached the point of suicidal empathy. And I wish I could say I coined that term. I think I first heard it in Parasitic Mind from Gad Saad, but it's kind of caught on. The idea that we're going to be just fine spending $122 million a month for healthcare for illegals. That's kind of a good explanation on why it's so damn expensive for the rest of us and why your property taxes are so high. They've got to make that up elsewhere. But I say take that away. Take away anything they get from any social program, whether it's a food stamp or a social security check or disability check. Take away the free schooling. Watch half of this problem solve itself. I mean, the women and children will almost all go back. And so we'll be left with what? A few men of working age that have snuck through the system and are sending money back. It's better than what we have now, isn't it? 800-288-9227. This is Dee in Dallas. What do you think?
Well, you were talking about the health care and how much we've spent. My husband served in the military. And back when I had my kids, we weren't, the military spouse wasn't eligible for a epidural. But I worked labor and delivery as a nurse, and I took care of illegal aliens, and they got everything. Everything.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
While your
As a
son's
military
active duty
spouse.
military. Oh, my goodness
Yeah.
gracious. Well, didn't you know a guy who could hook you up with a spinal tap or something?
No, because I had my child on base, and I worked off base.
Well, that is a terrible story, and I thank you so much for sharing it with us. But when my brother-in-law worked at the hospital, that was like 20 years ago, he has all kinds of stories like that. He has stories about how people would pretend to be illegal just so they could get the freebies and get the heck out of there,
Yeah,
and just stick
exactly.
everyone else with the bill, whether it's passed on to the taxpayers or they have to raise the price of everything else for the other patients that are actually paying the bills. We're getting the cost of that. We're paying for these people. This level of empathy. How come none of these programs work in my favor? Thank you, Dee. This will be Felix in Dallas. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think, Felix?
Yeah, I agree. I served proudly for this great nation, and this great nation is built up upon immigrants. There is a legal form of fashion. My parents, my father, he came correctly, became a United States citizen. He knows the structure. He understands. He served in the military in Mexico. He came out here. He did it the right way. He was back in the days, they were able to come in as, with the permits and getting seasonal occupational work and job. And even the government, up until recently, gave them benefit to where they qualified per them doing their job legally. And then immigration, where it's misconstrued illegally on purpose, illegally is what's left out of the entire picture.
Mm-hmm.
No one's against immigrants. Just like I just
Well,
said,
few people are, but most of the complaints that you hear from people like myself and on this platform, we consider them two completely different things. Consensual immigration versus illegal immigration makes all the difference in the world. It's like sex. Consensual sex, best thing in the world. Non-consensual sex, worst thing in the world.
Well, there's always a right way and a wrong way, and everyone that chooses to do the wrong way and take advantage of it, it's for a convenience factor, and that right there is totally unacceptable. And accepting the fact that there's money being used for the incorrect is, I know.
But to your original point, Felix, yes, this country was made of immigrants. But I know when my immigrants came here from England, or I know specifically like the Irish side of my family came here in 1868. You know what he didn't have waiting on him? He didn't get free health care at hospitals. He didn't get a free school to send his kids to. There was no food stamps. There was no Social Security. There was no Section 8. There was no Medicare, Medicaid. There was none of that. He had to cover it all. And you know what? A big chunk of the people who came here originally went back. They thought it was going to be easy. They thought it was going to be some kind of cakewalk. And some of them got kicked in the teeth when it happened, and they decided not to stay. So now we're not even encouraging the least robust immigrants to leave. We're encouraging them to stay, the freeloaders. Nikki in Springtown, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hi.
Hi.
My husband and I both work, and we both pay a lot of money in health insurance for 5 kids and ourselves. And it is ridiculous that we pay high premiums. And I had a child that had wasn't feeling well and ended up being an emergency. Went to the emergency room, looked at my card, and saw that the copay was $950.
Good Lord.
Well, being in a pinch, I have no idea what to do. So what do? Look at my card, look at what I've heard before that they say cash pay. And so I said, I know it's not nice, but listen, there's people that don't have insurance. So I said cash pay, and they said $250. So how do we pay? My copay that I pay insurance every month is $950 copay, but illegals can come and get free medical and get their bills paid for, and I have to pay.
Well, why don't you quit complaining, racist? Just pay up.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That well,
It has nothing to do with racism. It's that the people. That
that's
work
what you'll
hard-
get. You'll get accused of either being a racist,
100%.
fascist, Nazi, sexist, bigot, homophobe. You'll get accused of something, and it'll always be impugning your character. They don't have the argument on how, well, economically this makes sense or ethically this is the right thing to do. No, you just don't have any empathy. You're just a mean person, Nikki.
So what do? Do I go bankrupt trying to get my child care in the emergency room when she needs it? Or do I have to lie and say I am a cash pay when I do have insurance, but it's going to cost me my monthly payment, and then a deductible? It makes zero sense.
No,
but illegals can come and get it.
Hey, just tell them you're an illegal. Just don't. The only thing they lose is your medical history. If you don't have to give them your ID or whatever, just say no. I'm an illegal. From where? Europe? I don't know. Just give me my free stuff. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. It's kind of sobering finding out just how bad illegals are ripping you off through the healthcare system, isn't it? Through the education system, through all the other entitlements. It's a big kick in the teeth. How long are you going to take this? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll remind you about the Rhino list coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Happy Friday, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Talking about the cost here. There was an amazing report. The state of Texas incurred $122 million in healthcare spending at hospitals from illegal aliens, and that's just the ones we know about. This is a number that a lot of people suspect is undercounted, because the state officials just started telling hospitals to start collecting this info last year. And there's just a checkbox on a form, and you don't have to fill it out. That's part of it. You can skip it. And so you may think, well, a lot of people probably skipped that. Yeah. A lot of people were probably instructed to skip that. A lot of doctors went on, made little selfie videos of themselves saying they're going to tell their patients to skip it. So just from the ones who are willing to admit it and weren't steered away from it, $122 million in 1 month. 800-288-9227. Who wants to keep this going? Who thinks this is sustainable? Who is more concerned about illegals getting free health care than your property tax bill, your sales tax bill, all the taxes that you're paying? They care more about them than you, the taxpayer. Bobby in Athens, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think you should make them pay cash, just like they have to do in their own countries, and pay the amount that us uninsured Americans have to pay. You know, it costs $125 to walk into urgent care here in the United States. And 11 months ago, when I was in Mexico, it cost me 50 pesos for the same kind of facility at 17 to 1. What is that, $2.50? 4 months ago in the Philippines, it cost me $5 to go to a walk-in clinic. Don't give them a bill. Don't send them a bill, because it ain't going to get paid. Make them pay cash up front, just like they do in their own countries. And I've also been to a clinic in Honduras.
All right,
it cost me $5.
Bobby, you can't do that. You can't. If I come in and I've been stabbed, I don't have the money.
That's true too.
Yeah, they don't let
no,
you. They don't just let you die out.
Yeah.
All you got to do is say, "I don't have the money." They're going to treat you anyway, and then they'll send you a bill. But if you're illegal, it never reaches you. You know, you have a fake Social Security number. They can't ruin your credit score. You don't have to, and they know they don't have to pay, because all the other illegals figured it out years ago. They're like, just don't pay. Just don't give them your info. Don't give them.
Yeah, just don't pay.
Yeah,
just don't pay. They know that. They know that. So that, stop doing it. Cut them all off of everything. They don't deserve anything anyway. They are not here legally.
Who is the person that is arguing against this, Bobby? Who's the one standing out there saying, well, you just got to treat them, and if they're not going to pay, then that's just, the price of doing business. We either got to charge that to the other customers or write it off to the taxpayers. Why aren't these people calling in? I want to hear from them.
Yeah, exactly. I call them libtards. Thank you. Have a great day, hon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bobby in Athens. So the question comes, which side are you on? And that was a viral video that I played a few months ago when this whole Trump administration was starting out. That was something that they were trying to get to catch on. Like, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the fascists, the Nazis, the literally Hitler? Are you on the side of those of us with empathy who care for our fellow human beings, who are thoughtful and nice and good and generous?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against.
Dude, this goes on for like 3 minutes. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. But that's a great question. Which side are you on? Are you on... God, that lady can't sing. Are you on the side of Luigi Mangione or the CEO he murdered? Are you on the side of the MS-13 Maryland father? Is that which side you're on? Or are you on the side of the victims of his crimes? Are you running down to El Salvador to go get him out of prison while you ignored your constituents who are in prison here in America for every other cause, J6 included? Are you a judge who's hiding a Tren de Aragua member in your guest house in Las Cruces? Whose side are you on? I mean, they keep doing the wrong side every time. Who didn't hear the Jussie Smollett case and in 5 seconds go, oh, that's fake? And here you have, I mean, even locally, like Carmelo versus Metcalf. How could you possibly choose wrong in that one? But they can't stop it. They can't stop themselves constantly. Which side are you on? Oh, and I'm meant to tell you about the Rhino list. There's not a whole lot we can do about these goobers in Austin right now. What we can do is identify them, remember it. I documented it in the Rhino list. It's available at WBAP.com, but it's scrolled way down. So if you want the link, let me know. I'll put it up, or I'll send it back to you in an email or reply in a Facebook message or whatever. But we have the list, and I have a map with the list, so you can know if you live in a district where you need to vote differently next time. And that's all we can do, is try and primary out the fake Republicans who are siding with the Democrats and giving them a new scholarship program that will take your taxpayer dollars and give it to non-citizens. Fantastic job, right? Which side are you on, Dustin Burrows? This is James in Dallas. Oh, another James in Dallas. Yeah, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just wanting to comment on the whole healthcare system and all. I worked in ERs and on ambulances for decades in this county, and all they're obligated to do is to make sure that you're not having a life-threatening emergency. Beyond that, they owe you nothing. However, they do take care of you, like you said, but there's no obligation to that. But no one's. And I think largely that has to do with the kickbacks that they're getting from the government when they show all these people that they treated that they didn't get paid for.
Yeah, understood. We got to cut off that gravy train, James in Dallas. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Coming up next, we have some positive green shoots in the terrible foreign policy situation. Is there progress with Russia and Ukraine? Is there progress in the tariff talks with China? Find out next from David Hamilton from America's Future Series on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Happy Friday. Welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Tomorrow is WeatherCon, Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon, Frontiers of Flight Museum, 9:30 to 1:30. For more information, go to WBAP.com. My next guest is going to take a look at what's going on outside of our borders, and I think we have probably a pretty good report coming up from David Hamilton, America's Future Series. I see a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but let's dig into some of these headlines, starting with China. Now, China's been saying publicly all week, we're not negotiating anything on these tariffs, but Trump keeps saying, no, we're having talks. I talked to Xi recently. I don't want to, give you the exact time and date, but I've talked to him several times here recently, and they've quietly lifted some of their tariffs, like on our semiconductors and on our aviation parts. So while publicly speaking, the headlines aren't that good, I think behind the headlines, there's some stuff to be optimistic about.
Absolutely. The Chinese way really is to not be confrontational and to save face. And so their easiest solution is to just not implement the things that they said they were going to do, or to quietly pull them back. And rather than publicly say that they're making a change, giving in, or anything like that, they're not about to do that. So they'll just change policy, and they won't announce it, and they can let the world think what the world wants to think about it.
Well, I wanted to ask you about they had bought some planes and they ordered some Boeings, but if there's 145% tax on them, this $60 million plane now costs like, I don't know, $150 million. I forgot what the actual numbers are. But if they turn around our planes and send them back, who else are they going to get planes from? Airbus? I mean, there's not like a whole burgeoning market of people offering commercial airliners. It's pretty much Boeing or Airbus. Isn't that like the only two options?
Yeah, in the short term, which means years, it would be very difficult for them to acquire those. You can't just ramp these sorts of things up quickly, just like you can't ramp up shipbuilding, et cetera. So the ultimate aim of this entire exercise is to get everyone to stop hurting each other and to say, hey, you punched me, I punched you, great. Let's stop hitting each other. Let's find a way to get rid of tariffs and lower them and level the playing field, and so we can all get back to business. And there are always pains when you go through these kinds of very difficult negotiations, and the other side just has to believe you're serious. And I think the Chinese are understanding that we are serious. They tend to outweigh us because that we tend to go in 4-year cycles, and they think in terms of 40 or 50 or 100-year cycles. And what they'll probably end up doing is say, okay, great, we'll make this go away here for the next year or so. But hey, under the next administration, we can go back to business the way it was.
Right.
And so they have a very long-term view of the world. They don't want to suffer this pain. They are having their own financial challenges, economic challenges. So I see this kind of going away. I like to think that we would come to some agreement where we lower all of the tariffs across the board, with the understanding that their tariffs were higher on our goods than ours were on theirs originally. So ours are really the true retaliatory, matching, reciprocal tariffs, not the other way. We didn't just wake up one day and go, hey, let's slap on some tariffs to the Chinese. This was in reaction to a long-standing effort to increase their production and to decrease our production across the board in just about every vital thing. And it's worked. We are finally now standing up to them, and that is painful.
David Hamilton, I've had a hard time getting good info on what's going on with some of these foreign policy issues, because if you go to every other news platform but Fox News and pretty much Joe Rogan, everything's a disaster. Everything's terrible. It's apocalyptic. This is the worst attack in however many months or whatever, just a blistering attack by Putin or whatever. But I have reason to believe that there's progress on that front. I just have a hard time people just admitting anything could be going right for this president.
So these attacks recently were very horrific, and they have been, but we, for a long time, didn't hear about any of them, right? So these things sort of come out based on what people report or the news cycle, okay? And Putin, let's everyone be clear about this. I don't think you, I, or anyone else would not say that Putin is a vicious, brutal dictator bent on making Russia great again, right?
Agreed.
That's his goal.
Yes.
And he wants to be expansion, et cetera. But he's also not completely stupid, and he's practical. And if you punch him in the nose, he will come to the bargaining table, and that's kind of where we're at. He does have to stop doing this. This entire discussion is the one that you and I have had, which is how much territory would the Ukraine give up? And the narrative is concerning, is because we're talking about Crimea, which was given over, allowed to be taken by the Russians in 2014. So they've had that for 11 years. If they were to keep hold of the Crimea, that's not us insisting on or enabling them to take territory or keep territory that they took in the past 2 or 3 years. They've had that for some time. The real question should be, okay, of the additional area north and east of there, how much of that, if any, do they keep? And I've always felt that there was always going to have to be an exchange of some of that territory, which is ethnically Russian, linguistically Russian, for peace, with the understanding is that Ukraine would not be into NATO and Russia would withdraw all of its troops. And eventually, hopefully, on both sides, we're doing economic trade, we're doing economic development with both of those countries, and we all stop killing our best business partners.
I saw a headline but didn't click through and read it. Do you know any inside info on the headline that says a Russian general was killed with a car bomb?
Yes, that happened. That sort of thing is expected to happen. And this is a very bloody, serious war, and it's become very, very personal. And this was my frustration. I was on your show many, many times last year, and there didn't seem to be a discussion much about trying to at least have a conversation. There seemed to be only one solution, which was continue to fight until the bitter end, or possibly when we started using nuclear weapons. So,
good Lord, yeah.
This amplifies just how vicious and personal this is. You cannot blame Zelensky for not wanting to give up 1 hectare of territory and for wanting to see Putin and the Russians punished. You can't blame them for that. But at the end of the day, our job is to get a deal done and to stop the fighting and to save Ukraine from completely being obliterated.
All right, now I'm going to go Google what a hectare is. Thank you very much, David Hamilton, America's Future Series. Don't y'all have an event coming up in like 2 weeks?
Yep. America's Future Series is now working to create a program with the University of North Texas, the National Security and Economic Strategy Center, which is being developed. We're having a great event. It's by invitation only, but it's a great event, and we're going to have more events throughout the year.
All right. Thank you very much. David Hamilton, America's Future Series. You can find him online. Find out more about that event that's coming up in a couple weeks. Thank you, David. All right. Coming up next, we're going to step in and have a look at the Fighting Oligarchy Tour. AOC and Bernie Sanders are taking private jets to major American cities to warn you about oligarchs. Do you have to take a private jet to go complain about oligarchs? You don't see like the inherent. Oh, you're going to enjoy the sound bites coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's check in with the Fighting Oligarchy Tour. I find this absolutely just precious that Senator Sanders and your next Democrat presidential candidate, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, have been going from town to town in private jets, warning you about a rich elite that want to control every aspect of your life. Could you maybe take like a VW bus next time? Like, don't even take a new car. Like, take a junker. Come by. You can borrow my 2016 Toyota with the dented bumper, and you can take that so you don't look. It's the same thing Al Gore does. Al Gore takes a private jet to a fleet of SUVs to some conference to warn you that burning CO2 is going to destroy the planet. It's like, well, that doesn't make. Then why didn't you do that? Then why'd you come here in a private jet? So we have the Fighting Oligarchy Tour. And the reason why Sanders sticks on this, and this isn't really AOC's thing, this is more Bernie Sanders' thing, is because it's just this ethereal concept that you can't prove or disprove, and he's always arguing against it. Like, look out, you gotta look out for those oligarchs. Yeah, that's what we're worried about here in Texas. When next time you're at the waiting to check out at the Walmart Supercenter, I bet you the person in front of you in line and the person behind you in line, they're going to be talking about oligarchs, aren't they? No one's talking about that. So, Oligarchy Tour. It's really just this same class struggle that boils down to just a rudimentary Marxist worldview. And so, some people like to try and divide us on racial lines. Some people like to try and divide us on sexual orientation lines and try and divvy us up like that. But the true Marxist is always doing it along class lines. And, that's just the way they see the world. You get kind of used to it after a while. But, man, it's hilarious to watch. Here, Bernie Sanders doing oligarchy just all over the place since
this
he's
great
been in
country
office.
of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy.
Okay. So he just says this. Same thing year over year. No specifics here. So when we finally do get some specifics, or at least an attempt at some specifics, it's always fun to go break this down. He posted on his Twitter/X account, whatever we're calling it these days, a little bit of an explanation here. This is from Bernie Sanders yesterday on X.
The worst form of addiction that this country now faces is the greed of the oligarchy. You might think that if you had $10, $20 billion, it would be enough. Kind of enough to let your family live for the next 20 generations. But it's not. For whatever reason, whatever compulsive reason they have, these guys want more and more and more, and they are prepared to destroy Social Security, Medicare, nutrition programs for hungry people in order to get even more. That, to me, is disgusting.
So let's talk about some of the economic fallacies here. Number one, name me a system of government that doesn't end up in what he describes as an oligarchy. Is there no oligarchs in Russia right now? Is there no oligarchs in communist China right now? Is there no oligarchs in North Korea? Where have you set up the system of government that you prefer, Bernie Sanders, and there's not a handful of ruling elites that have a whole bunch of money? Happens everywhere. So the fact that there's rich people out there, that's just a sign that something's wrong? Really? When we got the government that's most closely aligned with your principles here in the modern times, Venezuela, was there no oligarchs there? They still had billionaires. Well, actually, when he died, the only billionaire left was Hugo Chavez. Now his children and his heirs are the only billionaires left in Venezuela. Is that better than an oligarchy? Because that's as close as we've come to squishing the idea that there's a system that doesn't create billionaires, just make everyone so damn rich they have to eat the zoo animals. Is that better? Is that what you want? But no, it's this blame the rich thing. And rest assured that none of your problems that exist in your life right now are because Elon Musk has too much money. None of your problems are because some billionaire has a whole lot more money than you. Now, there's a natural base human instinct of envy that he's playing like a fiddle here, but it's the same old thing. Thomas Sowell is all over this blame the rich stuff, and he has a great book that I know you're not going to read, so I'll pull some bites from a recent interview.
Point their finger at the rich and whip up resentment. They're not trying to empower anybody. They're not lifting up the poor. They're disarming them. They're creating a distraction, a sleight of hand, so you don't notice what's really happening. The strategy is as old as politics itself. Stoke envy, manufacture outrage, and direct it at a convenient target. That way, people are too busy hating to ask why the schools don't teach, why the jobs don't come, or why the system keeps so many trapped in dependency.
Yeah, and that's great. The pushback on that is, he's supposed to make you envious of these people who have tens of billions of dollars to spend, and they just want more and more and more. Bro, Congress just spent $7 trillion last year, and y'all still want more and more and more. Y'all are in the trillions, and you're still increasing it every year. Is there no limit to your is that's not greedy when you want to spend $7 trillion of other people's money, but Elon Musk can spend $40 billion of his own to buy Twitter? Oh, that's greed. That's what I need to be worried about. Not you, Elon. Yeah, right.
You'll notice the loudest voices for equality rarely live like equals. They're in gated communities, flying private jets, sending their kids to schools the average person can't afford. They're not revolutionaries, they're power brokers. They preach class warfare because it's a useful tool, not because they believe it. If they really cared about the poor, they'd focus on what works. Better schools, fewer regulations, policies that reward. But that's hard, it takes results. It's much easier to point at the rich and say, they're your problem. This isn't about fairness for them, it's about control.
Right, and he acts like that you're calcified in your class, and when he was a guy who never had a real job until he became the mayor of Burlington. You still can't name what Bernie Sanders does. Is he a teacher? Is he a coach? Is he a carpenter? Is he a IT guy? Is he a lawyer? Is he anything? Yet he's got 4 houses, flying around on private jets, talking about how there's elites that want to control you. You're the elite.
The greatest threat to opportunity isn't inequality of income. It's the centralization of power. The more power they have, the less you do. And the less power you have, the harder it is to rise. The politics of resentment is a trap. It keeps the poor angry, the powerful secure, and the system broken. If you want to fix things, stop looking at what others have and start asking, what's stopping you from building your own?
Beautiful. And he's right. It's the politics of resentment. That's what a lot of this is. I mean, you got them resenting them so hard, they're blowing up electric cars, killing the planet in the process. 800-288-9227. That is our summary of today's oligarchy section. More felonious, or fallacious, I should say, not felonious. More fallacious economic philosophy coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Felonious. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I appreciate you sticking with me through these economic talks. I know it's not the sexiest thing in the headlines here, but so many of the issues that are affecting you could be solved with proper economic philosophy. When you talk about property taxes, when you talk about the schools, when you talk about healthcare, even when you talk about immigration, there's giant things that could be done if just we would get our economic house in order. If we all understood it, agreed on the correct version of economics, that would be my version. Thank you very much. And if we all moved in that direction, so many of these things, like when we were talking about earlier on the show, one of the big problems with illegal immigration is how much they cost us at the hospitals and at schools and all these other social programs. Well, cut them off. Cut them off. So some of them would go back. It wouldn't completely solve it, but that would alleviate some of the issues we have. It would dim the magnet that's pulling them here in the first place, and it would also kind of repel some of the ones back home when they don't enjoy homeschooling or whenever they go to the hospital and they get care, but then ICE shows up and takes them home. So another one, we were talking about it yesterday, birth rates. There's an economic angle to almost everything. Like even with abortion, like if you wanted to reduce abortions, couldn't we just raise a whole bunch of money? And when the girls go to the abortion clinic, say, hey, instead of aborting this baby, if you carry it to full term, we'll give you $1 million. Wouldn't that be a great economic solution to abortion? Christians, step up, make the fund. If you don't want them having it so bad, you don't have to restrict them. You don't have to pass a law. You don't have to ban it. Put the economic incentive. Economics incentives would be brilliant in so many of these other situations. Now, back to the birth rate thing. I heard a terrible idea. Jessica Tarloff, I think this was on the 5. This was on Fox News. But her birth rate solutions, it sounds like she learned economics from Bernie Sanders. They just say things that they think sound like it helps. They think it sounds good. But it's based in nothing. It has no economic underpinning. They're just throwing out a wish list.
And if the Republicans want to encourage people to have more children, you need paid sick leave. You need paid family leave. I understand the concerns about universal pre-K, but it's a net benefit to have that. The child tax credit, again, that'll be coming up. I think it's in the American Family Act that's coming up. Make sure that you pass those things.
Yeah, see these other things that I was already wanting anyway. If we do that, then it'll result in higher birth rates. Really, maternity leave. What was the other thing? Like paid vacation or sick leave?
And if the Republicans want to encourage people to have more children, you need paid sick leave. You need paid family leave.
Yeah, paid sick leave.
The concerns about universal
paid family leave. I got it. Okay, so the United States isn't doing the worst in the birth rate race here. There are countries who are below 2 kids per woman, and that means their populations are on the decline. Some of them are way down, like 1.2, 1.4, South Korea, Hungary. And, this isn't a white thing. This isn't a race thing. This is happening across different developed countries, all on the other side of the planet, pretty much. But in these places that have even lower birth rates than we do, like take a Hungary or take a France or take a UK, they're all below us. But they have these things that she's talking about. They have paid family leave. They have paid maternity leave. They have paid sick leave. Did it make their birth rate go up? Do they have higher or lower birth rates than we do? They have everything you just asked for, saying that this would result in higher birth rates. But all the countries that do that have lower birth rates than us. And most of the countries that have a higher birth rate than us don't do that. So what are you talking about? You have in fact, all the evidence is lined up against you. And just look at how confident, she puts on her big old glasses and she's wearing a pantsuit. So she looks all serious and she's talking in the kind of those serious academic kind of NPR tones, like, excuse me, you silly right-wing weirdos. Here's how you fix birth rates. You do all these social programs that I like. No, it obviously doesn't work. We see the countries that do it. They're doing worse than we are in that category. It's like Bernie Sanders was like, we got an oligarchy. We're headed toward an oligarchy. Based on what? What are you talking about? Why don't you give me the evidence of where your plans have worked in the past? Jessica Tarloff, why don't you show me a country that has all those things and their birth rate skyrocketed. In fact, these countries that have all these benefits and paid maternity leave and paid time off and paid family leave and whatever the heck else, and universal health care and paid for daycare and whatnot, since they implemented those policies, did their birth rates go up or down? Well, the answer is down, but does Jessica Tarloff know that? Does anybody know that? Does anybody even question when stuff comes on TV? Like, when you heard Jussie Smollett, did you just go, oh, that's terrible? Or did you go, that's not believable? If you went, that's not believable, you're capable of critical thinking. If you believe the Jussie Smollett story for 5 seconds, you really need to be more skeptical of the people on TV, because Jessica Tarloff is just as wrong in her economic approach to the birth rate as Jussie Smollett was wrong about being the noose, the bleach, the MAGA hat, the slurs. I mean, it's just not believable for 5 seconds, right? Well, they're no more correct about these economic issues, oligarchy or birth rate solutions or paid family leave. They're no more correct than Jussie Smollett was. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, a couple of judges are arrested. One for harboring an illegal immigrant and one for helping an illegal immigrant evade ICE. Hey, I thought this was a free country. Now, we'll ask an immigration attorney next how much trouble they're in. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, happy Friday, Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. One of the more interesting stories floating around the headlines right now is a couple of judges that have gotten themselves arrested for helping out illegal aliens. Renata Castro's back on the James Show from USA for All. It's an immigration firm. Renata, what are they facing here? What are the penalties? Harboring, like the one guy had an illegal immigrant in his guest house. That's illegal?
Well, I guess you have to see whether or not this person knew the undocumented alien had no papers, whether he has a duty to report them. I imagine a single civilian is encumbered with questioning whether someone is evading taxes and reporting that person. I think that the burden of proof here is very high, and that unfortunately everyone is jumping to assumptions in regards to whether or not these are crimes, because the U.S. government currently is pushing civilians to engage in what the government's failing to do. It wants simply because it doesn't have enough agents.
Yeah, so the reason why I have a question mark past this is I've lived in apartments where the guy that crossed from me was clearly an illegal immigrant. He was able.
But how do you know why? I'm sorry, but what makes it clear? I'm just asking because I think that's a valid question.
I asked. Did I lose you, Renata? Your phone drop off?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I asked him, Alejandro. Yeah, are you illegal? I mean, it's kind of obvious he doesn't speak any English, and so someone that's from here, they would pick up something.
There's. The reason I think it's important we have this discussion on the air is because there are several Americans who don't speak English because they've never lived in the United States, and I think in this case, you may be right because Alejandro confirmed he doesn't have papers, but we should never assume a person doesn't have papers just because of the way they look at or their inability to speak English.
Well, maybe not assume, but if they can't speak English and they're from Mexico, it's probably more than half of them, I would think, are illegal. It's not like once you've been here for one or two generations, all of them speak English.
I know a lot of people who speak English and who don't have status, and I know a lot of people who do have status and who don't speak English.
Agreed.
As a lawyer, I'll tell you what my main concern is. My main concern is that into a witch hunt where individuals in general, particularly Americans, are going to be committing crimes because they will be trying to cite people for an arrest when they don't have the power to do that. And then the federal government is just going to abandon these individuals to respond to these state charges. I'm more concerned about the everyday guy, the American that is hardworking, and maybe committing a crime, trying to arrest, as we fake ICE arrests. And these people probably think they're doing the country a good thing. Imagine having your life completely destroyed because you're committing a crime you don't even know you're committing, and you think someone is undocumented. I am concerned about preserving the law and making sure people don't get hurt because of the wrong narrative. I think that this is so imperative at this point because if we start looking at who looks undocumented, there was an American citizen who was detained for 10 days in Florida last week because he did not look American. So imagine if one of us is arrested because we don't look American. So I hope this is not overly passionate, but I really want to make sure that the everyday Joe is not hurt in the middle of this political battle because at the end of the day, this is not about due process. This is really about making the United States a better country for the people who are here, who are to be deserving the letter.
All right, Renata, I think we got most of that, but your phone's driving me so nuts. I'm going to cut it like a minute short here, but thank you very much for coming on. I was just kind of concerned because if you have someone that you're renting a house to and they're illegal, could you get in trouble? Do they have to prove intent like Renata was talking about? That something I thought might concern some landlords around here, or small business owners. Would you be in trouble for harboring an illegal if he was working on one of your crews or whatnot? Just wanted to fill that out a little bit. 800-288-9227. 288-9227. WeatherCon is tomorrow. It's finally here. Blue Ribbon Roofing's putting on the 2025 WeatherCon with WBAP and Fox 4. It's at the Frontiers of Flight Museum tomorrow morning. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to get there about 9. You don't have to get there before it opens. But when I got there last year, I got there right before it opened, and there was a pretty long line. So if you want to be first in line, maybe you have to get there a little before 9:30 like I'm going to. It lasts until 1:30, but you can meet me, and Casey Bartholomew will be there, and Hal J. And, of course, Brad Barton's going to be there. The chief meteorologist from Fox 4, Dan Henry's going to be there. And here's the best part. It's free. Absolutely free. And there's so much cool stuff for the kids. I mean, the Frontiers of Flight Museum being free is the reason enough to bring your kiddos. But they have these science demonstrations and these guys who are real good at keeping kids entertained. You know how hard it is to keep a bunch of 8-year-olds paying attention to you while you're doing something sciencey. Well, they have a few of those set up, face painting, some booths for the kids, a bunch of free giveaways from sponsors. And, of course, Blue Ribbon Roofing. You can come out and take a picture if you've ever wanted to meet John from Blue Ribbon Roofing because you've heard him in the commercials. You know, we'll all be there having a good time. Frontiers of Flight Museum tomorrow, April 26th. They say it's at 6911 Lemon Avenue. But guys, can we not put this in my commercials? No one memorizes addresses anymore. You just ask your phone. Say, give me directions to Frontiers of Flight Museum. And it'll say, sure, here we go. And then you follow the blue line to Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon tomorrow morning. Coming up next, the legal analyst for The James Show, Jeremy Rosenthal. We'll ask him, as a lawyer, some of those similar questions that I was just asking Renata. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to be a part of the big show, I know I'm not just asking a whole lot of questions, but feel free to jump in at any point. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Jeremy Rosenthal, the legal analyst on the James Show, joins us, and I have some questions about these judges that got themselves arrested. First off, the guy in Las Cruces, he got arrested for having an illegal immigrant stay in his guest house. I mean, I guess that sounds illegal, but explain that one to me. Do you have to know it's an illegal before you're in trouble?
Well, I'm going to have to learn a little bit more about that one because, yes, if you're harboring them and intentionally doing things that are obviously overtly throwing people off of somebody's scent that's wanted or has a warrant or something like that, it's a problem. If you're renting an apartment to somebody, a landlord doesn't have to see your documents, right? So it could be that you're just leasing an apartment to somebody. So we'd have to see a little more detail on that one to see just how, if or how nefarious that one is. I would suspect that there's going to be a little more there, but yeah, the short answer is there has to be some type of knowledge prerequisite for that to cross a line.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy knew. He was letting him stay there for free. Oh, why are these people falling all over themselves to keep illegals from getting deported?
I think we're going to learn more about this one as it goes along. And you got to be. First off, it's just a bad idea for a judge to be kind of engaged in that. My understanding is he's a magistrate. I don't know exactly what that means in Las Cruces.
What does it mean in English?
Well, in Texas, it's Latin. So
hey, good point. Good point.
Yeah. So I'll ask my daughter. She's taken Latin. But a magistrate in Texas is sort of a lower level judge who is not necessarily elected. They tend to be appointed, and they tend to handle a lot of the busy work that the more senior judges don't want to do. They set a lot of bonds. Judges can delegate things to them. So we don't know how high ranking that guy is. And again, is this an intent to is this an intent to defraud the federal government or protect somebody who evade arrest? And again, you used to see, I remember in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, used to see politicians that would employ somebody that was undocumented, and it would be a big scandal.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm having a hard time differentiating that from the one in Las Cruces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this other one seems to be a little more cut and dry here. Pam Bondi had spelled out some of the details on how a judge was hearing the case and the plaintiff in the case, an illegal. When ICE came to her court to pick him up, she went out, screamed at him, kicked him out of the court, and then took her back into private chambers, gave him the private exit, and let him escape. That's got to be illegal. What is she facing on that? What's that called?
Well, that would be probably that would be obstruction, and that would be assisting or harboring a fugitive. That's potentially what that would be, and that really brings up a lot of really interesting point, James. So one, I'll tell you this, and as far as the judges that I know that I practice in front of in Collin and Dallas and in Tarrant, they don't like people getting arrested at court for any reason. They want people to come to court. If court were, it's hard enough to get people's participation, and they don't like the fear factor. They don't like somebody being afraid and not coming to court because they're concerned about an arrest. So most judges and most magistrates will say, please not here. Please don't do this here. This is not what this is for. Now, federal agents have a long history, and ICE agents have a long history of picking up people who are undocumented at probation when they go to their probation officer, and they see that there. Now, when you are a federal officer, and this brings up an interesting point, in a courtroom in Texas, and I imagine in Minnesota or Wisconsin, excuse me,
right.
In that courtroom, the judge is the king. And the judge can direct people to be arrested. The judge can direct movement in that court. They can direct people to sit down, stand up, do all these things. And when you have a federal officer in there, what leverage or power do you have over those federal officers? I don't know the clear-cut answer to that. And if somebody who is an illegal alien is in her presence, who has the right and the illegal authority to direct that? That's a really hard question. And you would think that, well, you've got the supremacy clause. So you have arguments that no, it's the federal agents that can tell that can direct the traffic in there. But I'm not so certain about that. So yes, if she is harboring or trying to actively assist somebody evade arrest, that's a problem. I would be, if I'm her lawyers, I'm a lot more scared of this if she said something dishonest to the federal officers, if she lied, or if she tried to pull the wool over their eyes and say, go out that way. Instead of, you know what, officers, you're not actually going to do that. He's walking out of this courtroom. You want to go arrest him? Go do it in the parking lot. If it was something like that, that would be a lot more defensible. But I'll be very, very curious to get more details from this.
All right, there he is, Jeremy Rosenthal. You can get him as your own lawyer, should you need one. TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you, sir.
Have a great weekend.
All right, there he is, Jeremy Rosenthal. All right, coming up next, we're going to play Name That Artist. We're not going to court. The gift card is to Rock and Brews Restaurant. They have American food, but it's up at the Colony and Grapevine. There's a couple locations for Rock and Brews. So if you're interested in a $25 gift card and you're going to be in the Colony Grapevine area and you like food, beer, and or cocktails, you'll want to listen to this montage and see if you know all these artists. Ready, go. It's a piece of crap. Oh, shut up. All right, so mostly 90s. I caught a couple of 2000s in there. If you think you know some of those artists, all those artists, or maybe you want to try and be lucky and be the guy at the end that gets in for free, call 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll play the montage again after the break, and you can write them all down next time. But go ahead and get on the phone. Call right now if you want to win the $25 gift card to Rock and Brews from Name That Artist. 800-288-9227. Name That Artist next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners, another round of bad weather. We've got some rain this week. We're going to get some more weather over the weekend. And if you suspect anything is wrong, it costs you nothing to get the free inspection from Blue Ribbon Roofing. James Parker here. Yeah, you heard that right. Free. If you're missing a shingle, if you hear some weird noises, if you just think that there's anything wrong with your roof, The smart thing to do is go to blueribbondfw.com, schedule a time for them to come out. It'll just take a little bit of your time. And if they find something wrong, good. You found it now before it exploded into something worse. If not, you set a great baseline. So in the future, if something ever does happen to your roof, you have this body of work here. You have some evidence to show the insurance company that this definitely came from this storm. Because when Blue Ribbon came out on whatever day they come out on in a week or so, then this is what it was when they came out. So obviously you're going to have to pay up for this. It's very helpful, not just for peace of mind, but for setting a baseline in case you do need a future insurance claim. But hopefully everything's okay. You just get a high five and we can move on. But to go to blueribbondfw.com, John, Tish, and Trevor, family-owned business, been around for 31 years here in North Texas, and they'll keep being here whenever you do need help with your roof. You're going to go to blueribbondfw.com. blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, happy Friday. This is the fun part of the James Show where I get to give away a cool prize. Today it's $25 gift card to Rock and Brews. It's cool little places on 121. There's two of them, but they're both kind of on 121. One's up at 121 in Plano Parkway in the Colony. The other one's right next to DFW Airport in Grapevine. On today's Name That Artist, we're going to start with who? I know we're going to play the montage again. Hang on. Jeremy, did you write them all down yet? Jeremy?
Yes.
You did? Okay, hang on. Alex, have you written them all down yet?
No, fortunately I haven't.
All
I've
right,
been driving,
I'm
so-
okay, well, I'm going to play the montage again. This will be your chance to write them down. Or maybe you can just do a voice to
All right.
text in a notepad file or something. Hang on. Steve, do you have a list going?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. All right, for the rest of you, if you want to write it down, we're going to play it one more time, and then we'll compare your answers to our contestants on today's Name That Artist. All right, there you go. There's your montage. First up, Steve and Alan, are you ready for Name That Artist?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's hear it. Go.
Offspring, Alice DJ, Elton John, Britney Spears, Cisco, Soundgarden, Foo Fighter, Weezer, Whoopsie, Cookie Doll.
All right, that was the fastest episode of Name That Artist ever. Our speedy friend from Alan, Steve, has just won a $25 gift card to Rock and Brews restaurant. It's called American Food with a unique twist. Hey, you got burgers? Do you have beer? I'm there. They make all their food from scratch using fresh, locally sourced ingredients and provide a wide selection of food, beer, and cocktails. Locations in the Colony and Grapevine. Thank you very much, Steve and Alan. Good job, by the way.
Thank you.
And I want to use Steve as an example. This is what we want on Name That Artist. I want to go to the first caller and he just rips off 10 of them in like 9 seconds. That's the ideal player. That's like hitting a grand slam in a baseball game. Very good. Good. Name That Artist doesn't always work out that well. So another round of applause for Steve and Al. Thank you for our other contestants. You did the work. You made a list. You sat on hold and you didn't even get a chance to make a guess. Kind of sad for you on that one. Maybe you would have done just as well. Someone passed around a montage that I thought was interesting. There's this new attempt of branding from Team Blue where they have Dark Woke. Now, Dark Woke sounds lame because Elon started Dark MAGA. Elon Musk showed up, and I guess he didn't want to wear the red hat, so he made his own that was black, and then the writing on it was in black, and he called himself Dark MAGA. You know, he has a funky accent. Well, there's some people who started calling themselves Dark Woke, and the only thing I can tell that's different from the rest of the woke is that they like to use a lot of cuss words, I guess.
This is what kicking the out of fascism looks like.
I think I
could kick most of their I do that.
Somebody slap me and wake me the up because I'm ready to get on with it.
Total
absolute bull.
Beef is, once you get successful, don't be a greedy bastard and not pay your taxes.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
Okay, there it is. We'll keep an eye on this new development of dark woke. I kind of like it. It's the woke people who just say a lot of cuss words. That's kind of adorable. Coming up next, we have the chief meteorologist for WBAP, the legendary Brad Barton's going to be on the show to tell you about what all is going on at WeatherCon tomorrow morning. So, Brad Barton next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My last guest, my honored guest, WBAP Chief Meteorologist Brad Barton's back on the James Show because WeatherCon's tomorrow. Welcome back, Brad. So this is your chance to be the belle of the ball, the star of the show. How much do you look forward to WeatherCon? Is this like your Super Bowl? Well, he's the guy that everyone was asking to take selfies with last year. But what goes on in upstairs in the Frontiers of Flight Museum? There's a theater room, and y'all do presentations there. Now, I was having to work last year, being at the tables and rotating around and whatever, so I didn't get to see some of the presentations. What happens in that room? Talk about the Storm Chaser guys. They seem to get a lot of good reviews. People think that their stuff is cool. What's one question you get every single time? Okay, that's kind of, you get to ask the impossible questions, right? People ask, is it going to snow at my house? Well, how on earth could Brad possibly know? All right, so there's also a lot of stuff for the kiddos. The science demonstrations, I watched it because I have young kids, and I'm amazed at these guys that can take a big group of like 24, maybe 30 kids and actually keep their attention and not have them, straying off or talking amongst themselves. So I was really pleased with the educational aspect aimed at children last year. All right, so what if there's a junior high or high school kid that's listening to the backseat of their parents' car right now who's thinking about being a weatherman when they grow up? How would you steer them in the right direction, Brad Barton? I mean, if they really did go to space. Thank you very much. This is WBAP's Chief Meteorologist, Brad Barton. He's going to be the star of WeatherCon tomorrow, brought to you by Blue Ribbon Roofing. Thank you very much, Brad. All right, go get some sleep. You got a long day tomorrow, sir. All right, I'm going to leave you with a viral video that was pulled from the, I don't know what TV show this is, but the actor's also in Always Sunny. He plays Dennis in Always Sunny, but this didn't look like an episode of Always Sunny. I just labeled this, what it's like buying tea in 2025.
Hi. One herbal tea, please.
Which flavor?
Flavor. Jasmine?
Sorry, I meant for the boba.
The little spheres of tapioca and sugar?
The tea comes with boba.
Well, it doesn't, because I see the tea right there and I see the boba over there. So why don't we just not combine them? Yeah? So I'll take the tea without the covert diabetes delivery mechanism, please.
The system won't let me do that.
Okay. Yeah, no, fine. One boba, please. We'll call it a mental health day treat. Self-care, right? Isn't that what people call it whenever they need an excuse to do whatever the they want?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, of course you don't. Of course you don't. One chewy sugar tea, please.
All right, you can scan the code.
Why?
Because the code takes you to the app.
That's 2 apps today. Yeah. Got apps for everything, Even though I'm already talking to the person that could just take my order right here, but I got to download an app, right? How about this? I have cash. You have tea. Why don't we just streamline things?
We don't take cash, though.
Yeah. How about cards? Take cards?
Yes.
Oh, great.
But there is a $10 minimum. There's no minimum on the app, though.
Sorry, it's it's not your fault. You didn't create the system.
Oh, don't you just feel that in your bones? Every time someone asks me to download an app to order something when I'm standing in their store, I feel like the battle scene from Braveheart's about to start. I'm just going to pull out a broadsword. I'm going to start lopping off heads. I do not want to download your app. I want a burrito now. Damn it. All right. Just thought you would enjoy that mutual frustration that is ordering pretty much anything in Uptown Dallas in 2025. You go out to Bug Tussle, you're lucky if they take cards at all. They're still taking cash, or you could probably pay in bushels of corn or something. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show today. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. Don't forget, I'll be at WeatherCon tomorrow. Come on out and say hi. Judge me based on my appearance. This has been the James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.